Hey, welcome to our explainer. Today, we're literally digging into the fascinating and, let's be honest, often complicated relationship between archaeology and the Bible. It's a field where some dusty artifacts and old ruins can shed a whole new light on one of the most influential books ever written, and it makes you think about a really fundamental question.
Yeah, this is the big one, isn't it? It's a question that has sparked endless debate for centuries. Is the Bible just a collection of stories about faith, or is it a record of things that actually happened? For a lot of people, the answer is buried deep in the soil of the ancient Near East, just waiting for a spade and a brush to uncover it.
You know, what's so interesting here is how the Bible really stands apart from a lot of other ancient religious texts. See, it's not just about philosophy or big theological ideas. No, it's packed, and I mean packed, with these super specific, testable claims about real people, real places, kings, and entire empires. And it's this unique mix of the divine and the datable that creates such a dynamic and sometimes explosive relationship with archaeology.
So let's start big. I'm not talking about just a single person or one event. Let's talk about an entire empire that, for the longest time, a lot of people thought was just a biblical invention. Let's look at the case of the Hittites.
For centuries, the only place you could read about the Hittites was in the Old Testament. And that was it. Because they didn't show up in any other historical records, many scholars just assumed, pretty reasonably, that they were a literary creation, maybe a myth. Think about it. The Bible mentions them over 40 times, but everywhere else, crickets, total silence.
And then, boom, everything changed. Archaeologists digging in modern-day Turkey unearthed the ruins of this massive, incredibly sophisticated city called Hattusa. And this wasn't just some random town. It was the capital of a hugely powerful empire that had dominated the entire region for centuries. You guessed it, the Hittite Empire. All of a sudden, a people that had been dismissed as fiction were proven to be a major historical power, exactly as the biblical texts had been saying all along.
Okay, so we've gone from a whole empire. Let's zoom in a bit. Let's talk about individuals. Because archaeology isn't just about digging up old cities. Sometimes it finds names. And these are names you'll definitely recognize, etched right into stone.
So take a look at this. This is the Tel Dan stele. Now, it was discovered up in northern Israel, and at first glance, this broken piece of black rock from the 9th century BC might not look like much, but the words carved into this thing? Whoa. They sent absolute shockwaves through the worlds of both history and theology. Right there, carved into the stone, is the crucial phrase, House of David. Now, you have to understand, before this thing was found, King David was kind of in the same boat as the Hittites. A lot of serious scholars were saying, yeah, he was probably just a legend, a great foundational myth for Israel. This stele provided the very first solid, non-biblical evidence for his dynasty. It yanked David right out of the realm of legend and planted him firmly into verifiable history.
All right, let's fast forward. We're talking like 900 years, all the way into the New Testament period. So, it's 1961, and archaeologists are working at the ancient port of Caesarea Maritima, and they find this limestone block. Kind of cool, right? But what's really amazing is that it had been repurposed and was being used as part of a staircase.
And what was carved on it? Oh, this is just perfect. The inscription clearly dedicates a building to the Emperor Tiberius from Pontius Pilate, prefect of Judea. I mean, come on. This was a massive find. Not only did it confirm that this key figure from the Gospels was a real person, it also verified his correct title, prefect, which was something historians had been debating for ages. It's a tangible link to the political world of Jesus' time. So when you see discoveries like these, it's really easy to start thinking of archaeology as, a kind of historical fact-checker for the Bible. But its true role is so much more nuanced and honestly way more interesting than that. This brings us to the big question, right? The one everyone wants an answer to. Do these stones and ruins prove the whole story? Do they prove the Bible is true? Well, the answer isn't a simple yes or no.
Think of it this way. Archaeology can't prove the theology, the miracles, the faith claims. That's not what it does. What it does do, and does brilliantly, is build the world where those claims were made. It provides the cultural context, the material reality. It literally builds the stage and sets the scene for the whole biblical drama.
Let me give you a great example. The ancient site of Shiloh. The Bible implies it was destroyed, but it never comes right out and says, and then Shiloh was destroyed. So what happens when archaeologists start digging there?
They uncover this massive, thick destruction layer full of burned pottery dating to around 1050 BC, the exact time the Philistines would have done the deed. See? Archaeology didn't prove the theology, but it showed us the physical evidence of an event the Bible just assumed its readers know about.
And that really brings us to the big idea here. This isn't some one-way street where science is out to either prove or disprove faith. It's much more like an ongoing conversation, a dialogue between different ways of trying to understand the past.
So, to be super clear, let's lay out what archaeology can and cannot do. It absolutely can corroborate historical details, confirm that people and places existed, and shine a light on the culture of the ancient world. But what it cannot do is prove theological claims, like miracles or the nature of God. It deals with physical remains, not spiritual truths.
You know, maybe the greatest value of archaeology is that it just makes the biblical world come alive. Someone once said it turns the Bible into a whole new book, and I think that's spot on. We get to understand the customs of the Babylonians, the trade routes of the Phoenicians, the daily lives of the ancient Hebrews. Suddenly, the text isn't just floating out there in a vacuum. It's grounded in a real, complex, and totally fascinating world.
Okay, so what are the big takeaways here? What should we remember from all this? First, archaeology can build a lot of confidence by confirming the historical framework of the biblical stories. Second, it anchors those ancient narratives in a real-world context you can almost see and touch. And third, it keeps this rich, ongoing conversation going between faith and scholarship, sometimes even challenging our old interpretations and pushing us toward a deeper understanding. In the end, this relationship between archaeology and the Bible isn't about finding some final verdict. It's a dynamic, incredible process of discovery that enriches both our historical knowledge and, for many, their spiritual understanding. And it leaves us with one last compelling thought to chew on. As this dialogue in stone continues, what other truths are still out there, just waiting to be unearthed?